In the name of Allah, may peace and salutations be upon the Prophet and upon his family and companions. To proceed, this is Hadith number 32 on the authority of Abi Sa'd ibn Sinan al-Khudri, may Allah be pleased with him, who said that the Messenger of Allah, peace and blessings be upon him, said, "There should be no harming nor the reciprocation of harm." A narration that's good, reported by Ibn Majah and al-Daraqutni and other than them, in a connected form, and reported by Imam Malik in a mursal form on the authority of Amr bin Yahya on his father, on the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him. So what he did in this narration, he dropped Abi Sa'id. And it has other chains of narration which strengthen it. So in this hadith, and in reality this hadith, it's a great hadith because it's one of the maxims of Islamic fiqh, in the principles, the larger principles of Islamic fiqh. This is one of them. What does that mean? In the understanding of Islamic jurisprudence and fiqh, there are 5 maxims that hold a great deal of meaning. So as relates to the intention, as relates to harming, as relates to certainty, etc. Now, the intent behind this program isn't that we study each hadith in depth. It's that we have an overall general understanding so that we can then go on to study these narrations in more detail. So it's not something that we're going to go into. And we'll stick to the explanation of Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen in this hadith. So he said, peace and blessings be upon him, there is no harming. So harming in the Islamic legislation is something that is negated and it's not to be done. And there is no reciprocating of harming. Now, the way that Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen explains this, and it's very difficult to translate this without an interpretation, but the interpretation that Shaykh Ibn Uthaymeen, may Allah have mercy upon him, says, is that the difference between the two of them is that there is no harming, i.e. a type of harming that happens without the intention of harming. And the second thing that's negated, so that's the first thing that's negated, the second thing that's negated is to harm with the intention of harming. So the meaning of the hadith with this interpretation is that there should be no unintentional or nor intentional harming in Islam. So the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, he negated both of them. So we see in this hadith that the second one, that harming with intention, it's greater than the first. And this is made easier if we give an example. And the example that we give is, suppose that an individual has a neighbour and their neighbour is watering a tree that's in the garden. And the excess water, it comes to the person's house. It comes to the neighbour's house, and it damages the house in some way. It causes some dampness, etc., or the plaster. And this is something that perhaps the neighbour who's watering the tree isn't aware of. So what's obligatory is to make them aware of it so as to erase this harm that's been happening. And it's a harm that's unintentional. As for the other one, then if we take the same example, it would be that the neighbour was watering the tree, but intentionally they were watering it in such a manner so as to harm the house of their neighbour. And this is something that is negated in the Islamic legislation. And as the Shaykh said, this hadith, it has very, very many benefits as relates to neighbourly relations and other than this. And the Shaykh said that if you want more explanation, then it's good to see what the scholars have mentioned in relation to causing rectification and neighbourly conduct. And Allah knows best, and peace and blessings be upon the Prophet, upon his family and companions.